Hi guys, so this is Indigo. If you've watched my video on trying mindfulness for 30 days, this is some bonus footage for mindfulness because I had a conversation with this one, who is my dad, about mindfulness for far too long. So we couldn't really fit it into the trying video. So this is again bonus footage if you want to learn more about mindfulness from his perspective. This is my dad for as long as I can remember at this point. He's been bugging me to do mindfulness, but I never did. I don't know why, I just never did. And so I don't know if you know, but since the 1st of October, I've been attempting to do mindfulness every day for Seribu Tujuan's YouTube video, just to try it out and see what it's like. But you've been doing it for how long?
A little bit over 6 years.
Okay. Why did you start doing it?
Well, it started like a voluntary thing because my father used to tell me that someday I have to learn about awareness, the practice of awareness, not so much mindfulness. So somehow at that time I decided to voluntarily enter into this session. It was a 4 nights and 5 day session, and it was a breakthrough. It was an enlightenment for me personally. It was a life changing experience, and I realized that it has answered basically everything that I've been asking for throughout my life.
Like what?
Well, many questions, things like who is God or what is God? Why are we here? What is our purpose in life? What is my purpose in life? Why do we experience things that we experience in life? So these things usually ends up with questions. You look at sufferings, you look at people, why they have to go through what they have to go through in life. I guess the question is, then why are we here? We were born, eventually we will die, and what's going to happen in between? And we are in the middle of that period. So other questions like, are we spiritual beings in a human journey, or are we human beings in spiritual journey? So these are simple questions, but I have not been able to get answers from a religious or a religion perspective. This is the first time I've eventually managed to find not so much answers, but I eventually find what I'm looking for using this technique, and I've been practicing it since until now.
What do you feel change? Like in you, not in everything, but like with
Many
the way
things.
you behave, the way you like.
Oh, many things. It all comes down to how our mind is constructed and how our mind is being used on a daily basis. We use our mind to solve problems. We use our minds to try to find answers to things that we need to find answers for. By using the technique of mindfulness, or the way I see it, is a simple practice of awareness, not so much consciousness, because consciousness is basically awareness with a purpose. Now, in this practice, we're not trying to find any purpose, we're not trying to find any answer. Essentially, what we're trying to do is just to have our mind to be at complete stillness. Stillness means, as you know, our mind is very active, and if you are willing to sit and try to look inward and try to see how your mind is actually have a life on its own, has a way of doing things on its own without you eventually controlling it. So instead of having your mind controlling your life, the practice of awareness simply means you're trying to get yourself to be on top of your mind, to be in control of your mind. And if you do not need to use it, then you're not going to think about something. So in essence, the practice of awareness simply means that awareness only exists if the mind stops.
Mm.
So if awareness stops, then the mind appears. So one is always in the absence of the other. So you can't have awareness while thinking. Thinking is thinking, awareness is awareness. So it's one over the other.
Mm.
So what we practice is we want to be here. We want to be at awareness level. You are very aware of everything that happens around you, but you're not thinking. Or if thoughts are coming into your mind, you merely observe it.
Mm.
So mindfulness or the practice of awareness simply means you observe your mind as it happens,
Mm.
but without a response.
Mm.
So you're just merely observing it. Because when thought comes to mind, thought comes to your mind space, sometimes it strengthens, sometimes it weakens, sometimes it goes away, sometimes it comes back.
Mm.
So the practice of awareness is simply just observing when thoughts are entering your mind. You're just simply observing it. You're not quantifying, you're not qualifying it, you're not giving it a name, you're not doing anything to it. You're just simply observing it. And when that happens, then suddenly everything about you changes as well.
Like what? Like, do you
So
have like a certain like behavior or
the behavior comes out later. So at the practice of awareness, you just simply at a standstill.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is physically, your mind, everything is at a standstill. So you're there. You are there in the moment and you are there observing what happens to you inward,
Mm.
inner, at any given moment.
Mm.
So one moment, you observe what happens to you, and then you move to the next moment, you move to the next moment, you go to the next moment.
Mm.
Because in the practice of awareness or mindfulness, the only thing that exists is this moment.
Mm.
What happens in the past is just purely memory. Scientifically, we know we just went
Yeah.
through something. But the future doesn't exist
Hmm.
because the future is just an extrapolation of the past to the future.
Mm.
Again, it's all about scientific.
Mm.
We know that we're going to still be breathing in the next 5 or 10 minutes. That's scientific.
Yeah.
But awareness is simply being here at this moment because this moment is the only thing that is real.
Mm.
So the practice of awareness helps me personally to be in the present moment. And that helps, and that the manifestation of it would be things like I'm feeling calm.
Mm.
I'm not feeling agitated. If something happened, then it happens. Do I need to respond to it? Maybe not.
Mm.
If I need to respond, then I will respond. That means when I do respond, I will use my mind to respond. But do I need to always respond? The answer is no. And that's what happens in life. Whenever things happen to us, we are compelled because we are trained all of our lives to always respond.
Mm.
So the practice of awareness is being aware that things are happening,
Mm.
but you just merely observing that it happens to you. If you do not need to respond, then there is no need to respond. You just observe. So in this manner, your mind is always at a resting state.
Mm.
A good way to do this would be to use your breath.
Mm.
See, when you inhale, that would be now. And then when you exhale, that would be now.
Mm.
That part, when I inhale, now is already in the past.
Mm.
You see? So that means when is now? Now is now. When I say now, that's now. And just 2 seconds ago, I said now, that's already in the past. So breathe in, that's now. You breathe out, that's now. You breathe in, that's now. And then when you do this, you will eventually look inward and you will see what's going on in your mind. You will realize things like you will hear noises, you smell something, you feel cold on the surface of your skin. These are sensations that happens to you, right?
Mm.
So with awareness, you know it's happening, but do you need to always respond?
No.
Exactly, right? You do not always have to respond. So mindfulness means being here in the present moment to realize that everything happens around you, but you do not always have to respond, or you do not always have to stand still. So, how do you see this? You look inward. You close your eyes. You look inward, and you observe. You observe what happens to you. You can observe with your five senses,
Yeah.
but you can also observe with your six senses, which is your mind, your awareness. That's your sixth sense, right? And without you being completely awake, being completely alert, you cannot be completely aware. So if you are aware, that means you have fulfilled the first two. You are awake, you are alert, therefore you're aware. If you're asleep, you cannot think. Your mind doesn't work. See, it's like, let's say before you sleep, you try to compute some kind of an algebra equation, right? You cannot find the answer, and then you sleep. Theoretically, if your mind is functioning, as soon as you wake up, you get the answer. But that's not true. When you wake up, your mind starts to continue computing what happened last night. And maybe because you're fresh, you're not tired, suddenly your mind is working better, suddenly you will get the answer. Which is very different than your stomach, your gut. When you eat something at night, 6-7 hours later, when you wake up, you go to the bathroom, something comes out. So that means your gut is doing its function. So the mind does not function unless you are aware. 3 A's: awake, alert, and aware. So what do I get in the end? I got peace. I get peace. I get a sense of peace. I tend to not rush into things. I always step back and try to be aware what's happening. Therefore, if I need to respond, then I will respond according to what I think I need to respond. So I will never rush. I will not get easily agitated, because I will observe it first without a response, and then eventually I will need to decide whether I need to respond. And when you start doing this, you will realize that you can be in the moment without any thought entering your mind space, entering your awareness, or in the next moment you can just simply thinking about something, and the next moment you're thinking about something else, and then you go to the next one and you suddenly back to awareness. So that means it sort of come and go, because the mind comes and it goes, it comes and it goes. Sometimes it stays longer, sometimes it intensifies, sometimes it goes away just automatically, right? So even sometimes it even goes like this: it comes and suddenly it goes away, not because you tell it to go away, because the next one comes in. You see, it keeps doing that. Right now, what happens with awareness? With awareness, eventually you will see that from one moment to the next, you continue to be just in your awareness level. No thought is coming, because the last thought has gone away, and the next one is not in yet. You see, and suddenly you go from, let's say, 1 second. Eventually you practice, you go to 2 seconds, 3 seconds before another one come in, or you get disrupted by the mind coming in, right? Because of many things, sound, lights, whatever, right? And before you know it, you can go like 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds, meaning you are completely aware in that 5, 6, 7 seconds, but no thought is entering your mind. You're just aware. And that is the most beautiful thing in the world. Why? Because there is nothing there. Nothing happens there. Right? And then if you can continue with your practice, eventually you can go to 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, you go to 1 minute, and sometimes you can go all the way to 30 minutes. What happens when you do that? 30 minutes without thinking, that means you're not using any energy in your body at all. A lot of people that practices awareness or meditation without the object, right? Usually they don't eat as much, they don't drink as much, because the mind is not being used. And if you don't use your mind, you don't use any energy. It's just like you're sitting down. You're doing nothing. No energy is being used. So, for example, in our practice, we can sit for like 12 hours a day. And then, yeah, you do some intermittent. You stop and then maybe you eat. But in that 12 hours, you hardly eat. You do not need to eat. Why? Because your body doesn't need it. Because your mind doesn't need it. So why sometimes when people are stressed out, they eat? Because the body needs energy so that it can continue to compute the mind and all that. So the practice of meditation, or the practice of awareness to be exact, is to teach yourself to be in the awareness state without going or entering into the thinking stage. 5 questions, 5 different questions, same exact answer. The first one, what is awareness? Awareness is being in the moment from one moment to the next for the longest time, right? To observe without responding for the longest time. How do you practice? How do you practice awareness? No, be in the moment from one moment to the next for the longest time. What is the benefit of awareness? So that you can be in the moment from one moment to the next for the longest time. You follow? So whatever the question is, the answer is the same because there is nothing to find. When you are in an awareness state, what can you find? Sometimes people say, oh, can you find God? You know, when you're in that awareness state. Nobody's teaching us to find anything. Just be in awareness states because awareness is what God has given you. That's how you know that you're alive or not. Because you have that awareness, right? And then you know, oh, I'm still alive. See, when you wake up in the morning, sometimes people say you have to be grateful because you're still alive. Well, the only way for you to know that you're alive is if you are aware. And before you're aware, you need to be alert. Before you need to be alert, you need to be awake. So by knowing that you are aware of something, that means you're alive. So what does awareness mean? Awareness means living in the present moment. So it's not about what's going to happen in the next 1 second or what happened in the last 5 seconds. It doesn't matter because it doesn't happen yet. Future-wise, yang udah lewat, that's it. It's in the past. It's done. Right? So you're just looking at this particular brief moment. That's it.
Okay, so that was the insight that I got from my dad about mindfulness. Comment down below on what you thought was most interesting from that video and what you got from that video. Don't forget to like this, comment again and share this video, and try mindfulness. It's actually good for you. Thank you guys.